Hi everyone, this is Haley with Cruise Blog, and today we're going to be discussing if balcony staterooms are worth it and why they might not be. Come with me as I detail why an inside cabin is one of my favorites. Let's get started. If you are someone who is in the process of planning a cruise, it's very likely that you are deciding which stateroom type to book for your voyage at sea. The cruise line industry is ever expanding, and this means that there are more and more kinds of cabins and staterooms for guests to choose from. These stateroom categories can range drastically in price, and when booking a stateroom type, it is important to consider guests' individual desires, budget, and needs for a vacation. I've had the privilege of sailing with some of the largest cruise lines, including Norwegian Cruise Line, Royal Caribbean, and Disney Cruise Line. On all three of these brands, I have stayed in interior cabins. Let me tell you why I think interior staterooms might be the best option when considering a cruise vacation. First up, price and budget. It may be obvious, but one of the biggest advantages to booking an inside stateroom is the price point. For those guests looking for cruise travel on a budget, we highly recommend checking out an interior cabin, as they're often hundreds or thousands of dollars cheaper than some of the other stateroom categories on board. Sometimes these staterooms give guests the most value for their dollar. Passengers staying in these inside stateroom categories get to enjoy many of the complimentary amenities on board that other guests staying in suites and more expensive stateroom categories also enjoy. But inside stateroom guests are typically paying much less overall for these amenities. Not all amenities or features on board may be available to guests staying in interior cabins. For example, on many Norwegian Cruise Line vessels, there is an exclusive area on board called the Haven that includes a restaurant, lounge, bar, and pool area that can only be accessed by passengers staying in these luxury suites. However, if you are someone looking to experience all of the standard amenities on board a cruise, such as the complimentary entertainment, main pool area, buffet, and dining rooms, and much more, a standard interior stateroom may be the perfect compromise between price and amenities. Next up, all the amenities you need. Whenever I cruise, I discover that interior staterooms have everything guests could want. Inside cabins always feature at least one bed. Much of the time, this bed can be split into two twin-size beds and can be a great option for friends traveling together who wish to sleep in their own bed. Some interior staterooms even feature Pullman beds for more than two guests, allowing 3 or even 4 people to stay in the same room. Plus, every inside stateroom has an in-suite bathroom that comes complete with a shower, sink, and toilet, as well as some minor counter space or small shelves for guests to store their toiletries. These bathrooms are usually rather minimalistic but completely functional. I have found some to be better than others. However, they're always adequate for a cruise sailing. Each inside stateroom that I have stayed in has had ample storage for guests to utilize during their cruise. Most interior staterooms have a closet and at least a couple of drawers for passengers to store their belongings. You'll also find a telephone and a hairdryer. These small features can be helpful and make guest stays more comfortable. Passengers can use the phone inside their stateroom to call the front desk and various other areas around the ship, including other staterooms should they be traveling with others who are staying in a different cabin during their cruise vacation. Most inside cabins also have a desk area, although the size does vary, and nightstands next to the bed. Near the vanity, guests will find at least a couple outlets in which to charge their electronics and devices. Newer ships will have more outlet options, but it's important that you be prepared in the event you're sailing on an older ship. Essentially, every interior stateroom has everything guests could want or need to make a comfortable home at sea during their voyage. They have the proper amenities to make a great cruise for any passenger. Next up, location. Oftentimes, you'll find interior rooms on many different decks and locations on board any given cruise ship. When it comes to choosing a stateroom location, there can be several important factors to consider. For example, guests who wish to be in close proximity to the top deck activities, such as the pool and buffet, should look at a higher deck cabin location. However, if guests are looking for a quiet area on board for their stateroom, they might consider a middle deck and lower deck. In fact, for the most quiet staterooms, I recommend finding a deck in the middle of the ship that is sandwiched between 2 other decks that consists of only staterooms. The staterooms that can often hear the most noise are rooms that are located below the pool deck or closer to other public venues. Next up, time spent in your cabin. One of the biggest reasons that choosing an interior cabin might be the best fit for guests is not only because it is the cheapest, but also due to the fact that guests tend to spend the least amount of time on board a cruise in their stateroom. Usually, passengers are busy exploring and participating in activities on board their cruise ship. Because of this, much of the time, a stateroom is just a place to sleep for many guests. Of course, this might not be true for every passenger, as many suites and larger category staterooms have their own unique and luxurious offerings and amenities. But for those guests okay with a smaller room and who are prioritizing the other areas on board, an inside stateroom may be the perfect choice. From my own personal experience, I find that I definitely spend the least amount of time in my room during a cruise vacation. During my trips, I tend to be out and about exploring and spend very little time overall in my room. Again, this might not be true for everyone, but if you are someone who would rather save some money on the cost of your cruise, then an inside cabin may be the perfect option for you. When it comes to choosing a cruise stateroom, there can be a lot to consider. However, for those looking to cruise on a budget and make the most of their money during a cruise voyage, an inside stateroom is a great choice. As always, we recommend researching the pros and cons of each stateroom category before booking and selecting the best one for you. I have always enjoyed each cruise I've sailed on, and every interior stateroom has proved to be a great place to relax, unwind, and sleep during a voyage. Some inside staterooms might be nicer than others, but each can be a perfect option for those looking to cruise the cheapest way possible. And that concludes our video on why I've never stayed in a balcony stateroom and why I tend to lean towards interior staterooms for most of my cruising. We sincerely hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and that if you did, that you would consider liking, subscribing, and dropping us a comment down below. What's your favorite stateroom category? Until next time, happy sailing!